Good evening from Washington. I'm Larry O'Connor. And boy, this is a busy week in politics. What with Tim Scott jumping into the race and now Ron DeSantis leaning in, it's really shaping up now for the Republican Party. We can see what the voters are going to have to discern before they actually start voting in January. That's right. We got 7 months to have this conversation, but it's never too soon to jump in and figure out exactly where it's headed with a brilliant political mind like David Marcus. His byline, of course, at the New York Post and Daily Mail and Daily Wire. And there he goes, lighting up. Now we're getting serious. Dave, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
All right. So, first of all, I know a lot of people are like, oh, Tim Scott, no big deal. He's just running for vice president, which I find rather patronizing, actually. I really like Tim Scott. I like his message. I think he's a great messenger for it. And I actually like the fact that he's positive and upbeat, which I think we could use right now in this country.
Yeah, I agree. Look, he's a long shot. I think everybody whose name isn't Trump or DeSantis is considered a long shot right now. But aside from his microphone malfunction during his announcement, yeah, it was very upbeat. It was very positive. He's got a great message, and I think, for the naysayers, I would suggest that they go take a look at 2016 and the kind of traction that Ben Carson was able to get with a very similar sort of positive message before counting him out of anything.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And not just a positive message, but a values based Christian message. There's always that candidate in the Republican primary that harnesses that lane, either Rick Santorum or Mike Huckabee and Ben Carson 8 years ago. I think most people expected that to be Mike Pence maybe this time around, but I think Tim Scott has a chance to really light it up.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think that they'll both sort of share that lane. And the swimming pool's starting to get a little full now, right? Because as you mentioned, DeSantis will be in. There's Vivek Ramaswamy. There's Nikki Haley, and you know, I think the conventional wisdom is that the more people there are, the better it is for Donald Trump. That was sort of his path in 2016. But I think you're getting a sense that for some of these long shot candidates, if it doesn't happen for them, they're going to find a way to exit and set up a one-on-one sooner than happened in 2016.
That's very interesting because let's face it, you saw uh, President Trump's announcement yesterday on True Social. He was very excited. Well, no, excuse me, it was 2 days ago. Really excited, welcoming Tim Scott into the race because it helps him. The more candidates, the better for Donald Trump.
Yeah, I think that's right. And I think that the sort of anti-Trump faction, such as it is in the GOP, has to be very careful because Republican voters, especially those who support Trump or lean towards Trump, will not take kindly to it if they feel like a thumb is on the scale, trying to, marshal everyone behind DeSantis and everybody else get out of the race. I don't think that's going to work. I think you're going to have the fight. I think that GOP voters, they're going to tune into this debate in August. They're going to want these candidates to go at each other. But I do think at the end of the day, we're less likely to see 5 or 6 candidates going through 8 or 9 primaries the way that we did in 2016. Just because, I mean, everyone knows how that script ends, right?
Yeah. So you expect it to isolate down to mono a mono pretty quickly. The question is, who's the other mono? Okay.
Yeah.
By the way, I'm sorry, I feel obliged. You went down the list of potential Republican candidates. You forgot Asa Hutchinson, David Marcus, and
I
we
did.
have Asa fever over here, and I don't know why he continues to get overlooked.
I don't know, man. Between him and Chris Christie, that's like sort of the Laurel and Hardy of the GOP convention. So I mean, hopefully we get some laughs out of him anyway.
Dude, they could actually put the costumes on and get
I
it
know
done.
they'd be perfect.
Are we ignoring the Democrats a little bit too much here? I mean, it sort of seems like it's baked in the cake. The DNC's already announced they're not going to have any debates. The primary is really just a de facto coronation for Joe Biden to waltz in and be the nominee for 4 more years. But boy, Robert F. Kennedy continues to consistently poll at 20%. And now you have Hillary Clinton speaking up saying, oh, yeah, Joe Biden's age is really a factor. What's going on over there?
I don't know. I think that the RFK Jr. stuff is really fascinating because there's really one of only a few things that could be going on with this. Either that 20% number and the 10% for Marianne Williams is just a, anybody but Biden. You put any name that you want in there. Or, it could be that the Kennedy name, although I'm a little dubious about that. It's been a long time since JFK now. This is not 1992. I think
Yeah.
the other alternative is that on a host of issues, RFK's presented a pretty moderate stance. I mean, we all know that he runs against the Democrat Party grain on vaccinations, but on biological men in sports, he says that's not fair. I mean, find me another Democrat who will say that. He's very skeptical of the war in Ukraine. Find me another Democrat who will say that. So I think the thing to watch is whether this really is just anybody but Biden, or whether RFK Jr. really is establishing a moderate lane for frustrated Democrats who don't want the party to, turn into the squad.
All right. But while we're looking at the Democrats, you've been very public speculating that none other than former Governor Andrew Cuomo could very well jump in. In fact, I think you've just said it, unless you're being ironic, that you think he's running.
I think there's a very good chance that he could. I mean, especially if Newsom doesn't. I mean, listen, every Democrat who has a shot at this is looking at that RFK Jr. number and thinking, boy, well, I might be at 40% right now. And, from the moment Cuomo resigned, and I never expected that he would resign, but from the moment he resigned, it became clear that the reason he did was to salvage a potential political future, whether that is running for president or whether that's running for governor again, which he could certainly do. But yeah, I spent 20 years living in New York, most of it under, somebody named Cuomo as governor. And yeah, I'm not counting this guy out of anything.
Isn't it true that any legitimate Democrat like Cuomo, I'm not that Cuomo is necessarily legitimate, but at least he's a legit big name, or Gavin Newsom, or any of the Democrat senators, the second they get in, it immediately becomes about a 60-40 or 55-45 scenario. Um, they actually have a chance of winning a narrow primary against the incumbent president. The problem is the party is so divided that they probably won't win the general. Is that sort of the calculation going on over there?
I mean, I guess that it is. Although I don't know. I mean, I'm of the mindset that, like, if you've got, a 6% chance of becoming the most powerful person in the world, like, roll the dice.
Yeah,
Um, so but so it is a little strange that there isn't more interest in challenging Biden. I mean, perhaps people look back at the last time that this really happened, which was 1980, with another man named Kennedy, RFK Jr.'s uncle Ted Kennedy,
yeah.
who challenged Jimmy Carter. Carter survived the challenge, but as you said, it weakened the party so much that Reagan was able to win. So maybe it's fear of Trump, right? I mean, maybe for some of these Democrats, it's like, if we weaken the party, we really have a much better chance of having Donald Trump be president again. And that's obviously something that they're not, keen
Right.
on. Yeah.
No, I think you're absolutely right. And I think that of all the incumbents, I mean, Biden is even weaker as an incumbent than Carter was in 1980 when you add his age, his questionable mental acuity, and the scandal, a huge scandal just looming, about to explode. All right, David Marcus, I guess what. By the way, I thought that party over country was what crazy Trumpers did, not these virtuistic Democrats. All right, let's end the conversation about the politicians. Let's get into it with David Marcus in a moment about the actual issues. That's right. Are people going to be voting on issues in 2024? I think so. Let's get into it next on O'Connor Tonight.